I might have to wait until the rain eases off before I start this video. G'day boys and girls, and welcome to another Tools and Stuff upcoming and new Makita video thingy. I need to come up with a name for these things, don't I? For this video I thought we'd start with some of the tools that are available in Japan that you can't get anywhere else. You need to order them from Japan if you live in the States, for instance. And that is the HS005G, the 125mm saw, the HS001G, the 165mm or 6.5-inch saw. This was the first one that Makita released in Japan, yet I think you can only still get it in Japan. It hasn't been released in this part of the world, I know that. The new trim router, the RT001G and the RT002G have both been released. And the duster, the air duster, the AS001G. Very cool tool, and you get a lot more attachments with it if you buy it in Japan than you do when you buy it in New Zealand. And newly released the TD002G impact driver. I did a review of this last week. That will be up in the top corner up here. Also recently released and available in Japan from the links down in the description and in the comment section. The new planer, the KP001G, and the metal cutting saw, and the 270mm, or I don't even know what that is, like 10 and 3/4 inch top handle, track compatible circular saw. Also there's a polisher you can now get. Oh, what have I missed out? Is there anything? And recently released in most parts of the world is the new miter saws. So most of the world can now get the LS002G, which is the 216mm, the LS004G, which is the 260mm, and the LS003G, this one, which is the 305mm or 12-inch miter saw. 40 volt, baby. If the lights do flicker throughout this video, it's because we've got some wild weather going on outside. There's a bit of lightning and thunder about the place, and it is interfering with the power a bit. I've done full reviews of those tools, check out that in the links below, and this one will be out soon. But let's have a look at some 18 volt stuff that's on the way, and we'll get back to the 40 volt stuff later. First up we have a bit of an oddball one. It's one that I imagine is only available in Japan, and it is the MLM 230D. 230 is the size of the blade of this lawnmower. That's what they're calling this thing, a lawnmower. It's essentially a brush cutter with a sort of lawnmower shaped body. Wow, 2 wheels on the front, doesn't look like there's any wheels on the back, does it? And a clear plastic grass catcher. It's not going to be for your full-on sort of big lawns. This is just a baby. So the smallest standard sort of mower that Makita have done up to this point is a 13-inch model, but 18 and 21 inches are more common. 18-inch being 460mm, 21 inches is 530mm. This is perhaps a good mower to buy your children so that you can get them to mow the lawn without the big heavy lawnmower that they can't push. But if even that's too big for you, or you think wheels are too extravagant, they have released the MUR194D, which is just a brush cutter without wheels. So not a mower. It's just a budget version, so don't bother looking too hard into that. Probably won't be released in most of the world. Sticking with outdoor power equipment, hedge trimmers are next. It looks like half a dozen entry-level style hedge trimmers have just been released on the 12 volt system, the G series battery I think, the 14.4 volt, and of course the LXT 18 volt, ranging in size from 300mm right up to 460mm. Once again, only got the Japanese model numbers for this. It's hard to know if they'll be released in the rest of the world, so we won't spend any more time on that one. But here's an 18 volt one I know a lot of you are interested in. The BO480D and the BO483D are a pair of quarter sheet sanders. The 83 has the Delta sander, the pointy bit on the front for getting into corners, detail sander, call it whatever you want. Basically they're the same tool just with a different base on them. But once again, what happened to the 81 and the 82? In most of the world that'll be the DBO480 and the DBO483, and in the States I think, don't hold me to this, it'll be the XOB02 and XOB03, depending on whether you guys get the third sheet sander first, because in the States it's just done in the order that they're released, which is different to how it's done everywhere else in the world. These are a pair of very compact 18 volt sanders. They have two speeds, 14,000 VOOPs and 11,000 VOOPs. The 480, the square one, has the clamp style attachments for your sandpaper, and you have the hook and loop for the Delta one on the 483. The 480 was announced a long time ago at the World of Concrete, I do believe, over in the US, and here in New Zealand. They were the first to announce it, but it's taken a while to actually come to fruition, but it is now available in Japan. I've yet to be able to find any links to this one, but if I do, they'll be down in the description. This is the third sheet sander, the BO380D. I'll put a link down in the description for that in case you want one of those. This is a great sander. I use this all the time now instead of my random orbital sander because I find this is much better. Here's hoping the little quarter sheets are just as good, although I don't think they're brushless, which is odd because Makita don't release many brush tools anymore, apart from cheap entry-level drills and impact drivers. Right, is there anything else in the 18 volt line? Oh yeah, there was a jigsaw a few weeks ago, the JV184D. Yeah, it's a budget sort of entry-level model. I'm not sure what countries that'll be released in. May just be a Japanese sort of version as well. Right, onto the 40 volt stuff. Oh no, wait, before we do that, how many of you have seen the Mac Store toolboxes? MAKSTOR. They're kind of like the Mac Pack, MAKPAC, boxes, and they clip together the same way, the sustainer style, but they have drawers in them for putting all your small bits and pieces. I've not seen them in this part of the world really. I think I saw one somewhere. Hard to remember now if I see things in real life or whether I saw them on the internet somewhere. But they're available in Europe, and I don't know where else. I don't think they're available in the States. But they're also releasing some small organizer type ones that are a little bit different, sort of a cross between a sustainer and that other brand. What's that other one? The Packout, that's the one. So they're kind of like that. They have a clear lid with sort of lock-in compartments so that you can just drop them on top of each other and they lock in place, that sort of thing. But it's still the same shape and size as a Mac Pack, so you can stack them all together. So that's something to look out for. Probably not going to be as popular as the Packout stuff though, let's face it. Okay, now before we get into the 40 volt stuff that's real, let's take a look at some of the 40 volt stuff that's almost real. First up, the new and improved rebar tyre. A lot of people weren't happy with the last one, so hopefully this changed design will provide the decent tie strengths and not waste so much wire as the last models did. I think I showed you this model a little while ago, but it was slated as an 18 volt version, but the new patent shows that it has 40 volt batteries on it, so presumably going to be a 40 volt max tool, as well presumably as an 18 volt. And something a lot of people have asked for, and I'm not really sure why. I don't really get the need for one of these things. Not if all your tools are battery powered. Anyway, a battery powered air compressor. So everyone else seems to have done this one already, and Makita are late to the party, but anyway, they've got the 40 volt battery system now, so they are chucking it on a battery air compressor. So you can use this for your nail guns, screw guns, that sort of thing. Although, why not just buy a battery nail gun? Oh, that's right, because Makita don't make one yet. Personally, would not buy a battery air compressor. Probably just jinxed myself. I'll probably come up with an idea for it now. But yeah, not the sort of thing I'd be into because I've got tools that all work on battery that do all the things that air tools do, so it seems strange to power an air tank with a battery to use a hose on a nail gun when you could have just bought the nail gun with a battery on it. Anyway, especially seen as I can't imagine it's going to put out enough oomph really compared to a standard air compressor. But they have a patent for it, so presumably it is on the way. And now onto stuff that I do know exists and will be with us shortly. Let's start with some vacuums. So we've got backpack vacs, which some of you have been asking me about. The VC008G and the VC009G. I don't have any numbers for the states yet, sorry. The VC008G is a 4-speed backpack vacuum cleaner. It has a sort of remote-y handle thing so you can control it without having to put your arm around to the back of the thing. It runs on one 40 volt battery and only holds one 40 volt battery. It has 2 litre dust capacity, so not great, but it is only a small one you put on your back. I'm not sure if the 009G is bigger. I can't find any information about that at the moment, so that might have to wait for another video. But the VC008G can move 2.4 cubic meters of air a minute. With the battery will weigh around 4.3 to 4.7 kg depending on which battery you're using. And with a 4 amp hour battery on the gruntiest setting it'll run for 11 minutes, on the lightest setting 93 minutes. You could also use it as a small dust extractor similar to this old 18 volt version. By the looks of things, those two vacs will be released in Europe before the rest of the world. Next up, another vac, another stick vac. We've already had the CL001 and 2G, we've now got the 3G, which is something you guys were all asking for as well, which is built-in cyclone. No more having to buy a separate cyclone and clipping it in halfway down your hose pipe. It is now integrated into the main unit of the tool. So the CL001G has the twist-off style with your filter bag inside. The 02G collects the dust inside a bag, and the new 03G collects the dust inside a cyclone attachment on the front. Disappointingly though, it has a much reduced capacity. So it comes with a 250 milliliter dust capacity cyclone, but you can also get a 400 milliliter cyclone attachment, whereas the original one, the 01, has a 730 milliliter dust capacity. So you're losing a lot of dust capacity, but you get that better prolonged suction. Up next, we've got a new flashlight, the ML007G. Sorry I haven't been putting many US numbers up on this particular video. It's because these things are too new and I just don't know what the numbers are going to be yet. Don't want to give you a bum steer and give you the wrong number. This is a torch, work light, floodlight, call it what you want. Has two different settings, spot and flood. On spot it's 600 lumens, on flood it's 1000 lumens. Put them both together you get 1250 lumens. According to Makita, you can shine the spot 640 meters. And that's 2/3 of a kilometer. It has a swiveling head, a hook for hanging it up, and weighs just under a kg. And speaking of flashlights, a few weeks ago I alluded to this one. We didn't have much information at the time. It is the MR008G in 40 volt. But there is also the MR054 in 18 and 14.4 volt, and the MR053 in 10.8 or 12 volt. It's a torch, a lantern and a radio all in one. It sort of fits in with Makita's sort of camping line that they seem to have been putting out recently. They're making a lot of tools in the olive green to make it look like an outdoor camping range. The torch itself has 3 different warmth settings for the light, which is quite nice. Sometimes the bright white ones can be a bit harsh, particularly if you are camping or something. You just want some sort of background light, just some ambient light, and you want that to be a bit warmer. But she ain't terribly bright. We're only looking around the 300 lumens for each sort of setting, so it isn't a work light that you would use to light up a work site. It is just a lantern to provide a little bit of ambient light, like I say, just something to quickly read by, something to just have hanging in your tent, that sort of thing, with a radio. A good emergency sort of thing, because you've got the radio on there, you've got the lantern, you've got the torch all built into one. It's a good emergency kit style tool. But come on Makita, we're still waiting for a grunty 40 volt work light. 10,000 lumen plus, come on. Now before I move on to an 80 volt tool, the XLock grinders are here. That's right, the GA047G is a 125mm or 5-inch angle grinder, and the GA045G is a 100mm or 4-inch angle grinder. Now the 4-inch one probably won't be available in most of the world. I'm not sure if have they released the 40 volt ones in 100mm anywhere outside of Japan. They probably have, but they haven't released them in this part of the world. They're not that common in size now, but hey, maybe they will start becoming popular again. I don't know. They're currently only available in paddle switch versions, not slide switch. Maybe they will release a slide switch one later. They usually release slide and paddle switches at basically the same time for all their angle grinders. So if you're in the XLock system and you've been waiting to upgrade from the 18 to the 40 volt and you wanted that XLock grinder, they're on the way. If I find any links before this video goes live, I will put them down in the description. XLock seems to be a bit of a love-hate sort of thing. Heaps of guys love them, heaps of guys don't trust them. And those grinders are IP56 rated. So, almost last of the video is the CE001G. I know we sort of spoke about it before when it was first announced, but it's finally now available. Still probably pretty hard to get in the States. In the States, it'll be the GEC01. It is a 14-inch or 355mm concrete cutting saw. It has a no-load speed of 5,300 RPM and can cut to a depth of 127mm or roughly 5 inches. It is IPX4 rated. As you can see from the video, you can hook a hose up to it to do wet cuts. The largest 18x2 version of this saw can only cut to 88mm. It has a 230mm or 9-inch blade. Now it's an 80 volt tool, so it requires 2 batteries and comes in at a whopping 12.9 kgs. This isn't a home gamer tool, this is serious stuff. According to Makita, it can exceed the cutting speed of a 75cc version by 25%. Milwaukee also have a battery version of this sort of power cutter. It cuts to the same depth, same sort of size blade, roughly the same, weighs a hell of a lot more, and uses the MX fuel system, so not too many people are going to want one of those because you've got to buy that whole different battery line, whereas with this you can just use your 40 volt batteries if you want to try one out. The Makita also has a higher battery capacity. I know Milwaukee are working on larger batteries, but at this stage 2 40 volt 8 amp hour batteries on a Makita tool is more powerful when it comes to battery watt hours. You're going to want to buy the big batteries for this sucker though. You need the 5 amp hours or the 8 amp hours because this thing sucks through the juice. With 2 5 amp hour batteries cutting at full depth, 5.4 meters is the maximum you're going to get out of this thing. So thanks again for watching another one of my videos, but before I go, a little bit of a rumor. There is a rumor going around that Makita are making one of these, a 5 amp hour 40 volt battery, the same size as one of these. So they'll be using lithium pouches rather than these old-fashioned 18650s and 21700 cells. Take this information with a grain of salt. I have no real evidence of this. It's just a rumor at this stage. But if they could get the power of this into the size of one of these, it would be fantastic. Because a lot of guys I know, you don't like the big batteries, and fair enough. And I get people say all the time, I wish they would make batteries smaller than these because they're just a bit big for the drill and impact driver, that sort of stuff. Well, you can't really do it unfortunately because there's 10 cells in here and you need those 10 cells to get the 36 volt. Unless of course you change the technology that Makita have always used, and instead of using the cylindrical cells you use flat pouch cells, but I still don't know if they'd get enough in there. I still think it would probably be bigger than this. Surely by now you'd think there would be some better battery technologies that these companies could use, but we'll see. But remember, just a rumour. Hopefully I'll have the 8 amp hour battery by the next video, and until then I will see you real soon. Shit, that was stupid. This video will be out soon, but it might be a while yet. Okay, I've still got a lot of cutting to do with that to keep you guys happy. And if your average impact driver or drill is just a bit too big for you, why don't you check out this video? I'll put a link to it down in the description. This guy makes all sorts of really cool tiny little things that actually work. But there's a lot of cool reviews I have coming up, so make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and I'll see you on another one soon. Cheers guys. Don't forget the review of this. I'll put it on the screen just here. And I'll put another cool video here. What shall I put here? Maybe the dust blower? If you haven't seen this thing, very cool. Cheers.